Alright, welcome back to the second part of the three-part series on making fire with the bow drill. This time we're actually going to make the fire with it. One little technique I'll show you with your spindle, you actually want to try to lubricate the top pointed part that's going up in the handhold, because it will have less friction and it'll keep it from wearing out as fast, so you don't have to keep whittling on it. One of the quickest, easiest ways to do that is to take that and rub it on the side of your nose. Got a little bit of skin oils there that work really well. And another good place for that is, if you have any, you can rub it around in your hair. I don't have a whole lot, but there's still enough there to do it. Anyway, that's what you want to do there. Now I'm going to actually show you how to get your fireboard prepared. Okay, now we're actually ready to start your fireboard. We're going to get your divot made and your notch cut. Since the technique to do that is the same as actually making the fire with the bow drill, we'll start with loading up the spindle. You've got your tension set on your string, which I don't, so back to the reason I put that little notch back there. Just tighten the string up a little bit, rewrap it, and you'll find yourself doing that quite a bit, and you'll understand why I do it that way once you start practicing. Okay, and you want pretty good tension on it. You don't want it so hard you can't get it in there, but this is the technique I use. I bring the spindle all the way back to the handhold, and I use my thumb and finger to hold it straight. That way it frees this hand up for whatever else I got to do. You lubricate the top of that spindle. You got your handhold. Now, you want to place your foot on the fireboard. You need to keep this as strong and stable as you can, so what you actually want to do is you want to take your shoulder and bicep up here and rest it on the top of your knee. You want to take your forearm and put it against your shin. Like that. It creates a triangle that's very sturdy and very stable. Put your top in your handhold, put the bottom down here. Now you don't want to push too hard. You want it to spin freely. But there's a little technique you use up here on the string. Once you start doing this, you'll pull with your finger on the string a little bit, or push with your thumb and pull with your finger to help micro tension the string. That way if it starts to slip or something, you actually can control that without having to take it all apart and retighten the string. But you want long, smooth strokes. Nice and straight, keep the bow level, like that. Once you got that part of the technique down so that you're doing nice smooth strokes, you're not putting a lot of pressure on the handle. Then you want to push just a little bit harder until you can see it starting to grind off some brown powder. It's going to smoke, but you're not making fire. It's actually surprising to me how many people think it's just going to burst into flames when it won't. But you want to get that divot nice and deep. Just like that. Now we got to cut the notch. There now. All I did, I put this in a vise and used a saw to initially cut the notch out, just because it's easier. It's in the garage. In the wild, you can actually just use your knife to do it. It's a little more time consuming and you got to be careful, but the important thing is when you make that notch, you don't want the tip of the notch to go all the way to the center of the board, or the center of the divot. You want it to stay outside the center. I'd say make sure you give it just a little bit of room. You don't want it all the way in the center, or when you start to use the bow drill, it will actually ride out of the notch. But you want that notch nice and clean, and you want it, if you think of it as a pie, you want about 1/8 of a pie slice. Give or take a little, won't make a big difference, but if you make the notch too big, the spin will ride out. If you make it too small, you won't get a very big coal. And you actually want to get the biggest coal you can. But that's how that is. Then you want to take your knife and make sure that that is nice and clean in there. No little hairs sticking out anywhere to catch stuff. Nice and smooth. Just like that. Okay, Now that you have your notch, you're actually ready to make your first hole. Depending on how thick this board is, you might have to work it a while to get the pile of punk up enough to do it. But what you're actually doing, while this is spinning on here and you're applying pressure to it, it's grinding wood off. When you grind that wood off into a fine powder, it fills up the notch. That powder can tell you a lot about what you're doing. You want it really soft and fine, kind of like a talcum powder or a baby powder. If you feel it and it's kind of gritty, like sand or salt, it's you're pushing too hard. You're actually burning, turning it to charcoal instead of grinding the punk off. And depending on how thick that is, you might have to make quite a big pile of punk. I'm going to tighten the string up just a touch. And we'll make our first coal. When you do this, I'm sure if you're practicing it, you're trying to get fire. You want to make sure you have your tinder handy. This is just some cedar bark that I keep a bunch of around. Just rolled it between my hands, got it nice and fluffy, ready to go. Remember, you load the bow, the spindle on the bow is coming from the back side, and wrap it around the string once. And you have to work at it a little bit to get it on the spindle. Now if you notice, my spindle is actually pretty thick. It's a little bit bigger around than my thumb, maybe about 3/4 of an inch. I find that that works easiest on these softwoods. You don't drill through it so fast and you actually get really nice big coals. It doesn't have to be this big, but it will help shorten the learning curve a bit as you're practicing, especially with these softer woods. Alright, so we're ready. What I've done here, I just got a piece of birch bark here I put down. You can use a leaf, a piece of bark, whatever you want. You want something to catch that coal. You don't want to do it flat on the ground because the ground can be moist and damp and it'll put your coal out. Well, also you have no way to pick the coal up, put it on in your tinder bundle. So you want to have something underneath of it to catch the coal. And remember that triangle. Get the ball of your foot on here nice and steady and firm. Top of your arm, there, make that triangle. Get that hand straight above the notch. Lubricate your spindle. Put it on there. Now remember, nice long smooth strokes. You don't want to go like this. You want to use that whole bow. That's what you made it for. You want to go for a little while. Keep an eye on that notch and watch it. Adjust the pressure enough till you see the powder start filling up in there. Once you can see the powder fill up, you can actually see it coming out down there, so there's enough powder. Once that's full, then you want to slowly push harder and go faster until you know you get it up to a lot of heat. You need about 600 degrees to get it to self-ignite. And I usually take my hand and wave at it. If you see it smoking, then you know you got a coal. Now, this is what I was talking about before. I didn't get a coal, and I actually did that on purpose because I want to show you something. If you actually grab this and pick it up and feel it, it'll feel like sand. It's all black and it feels rough like sand or salt. That tells you that you were pushing too hard on the spindle while you were making your pile of punk. What you want it to feel like is baby powder, real fine powder. It should be a dark brown color too. So now, this time, I'm not going to push as hard. Another thing you want to do is make sure if you do make an attempt to clean that notch out, just like that. Okay, this time we're actually going to try to get a coal. Making fire with the bow drill isn't all that hard. The hardest part about it is actually learning to control how much pressure you're putting on this so you don't burn your char or your punk. The actual techniques to it isn't all that hard to learn. It just takes a little bit of practice. And every kind of wood is different. Cedar is a really good wood to use. You don't want to use pine. It's too soft and sometimes can have resin in it and makes the wood swell when you try and use it. Real hardwoods like oak and walnut and hickory you don't want to use. That's why I start everybody with just a cedar board from the lumber yard. It tends to work pretty well. And it at least gives you the confidence to get the technique down so that you will have the confidence to go in the wild and try it. Now, once you start practicing this, once you've done it once, it'll actually start squealing a lot because of some of the wood is charred, so it'll make a lot of noise. You can blow on that coal, but a lot of times when you do that, you'll blow it apart. That's why I just wave my hand at it. Get it smoking good. There, you can tell because of how well that's smoking, I've actually got a coal in there. It's hard to see because of the daylight. Bring it up to the camera for you to see. You can see the orange glowing coal. That's what you're trying to get right there. And all you do, take that coal, drop it into your bird's nest. Now, you don't want to crush it. You want it kind of loose in there. But you don't want to hold it down below and blow on it. You want to make sure you hold it up so smoke doesn't go in your eyes. And you have fire. Try not to burn yourself. You would actually take that and put it right into your actual teepee fire, whatever you made. That's how simple it actually is. It's not real complicated, but it does have a learning curve. You have to practice it. But once you make that first coal, you will always be able to make a coal. You might struggle sometimes. You might not find the right wood. It might be damp out. Your tinder might have some moisture in it. You might struggle, but once you make that first coal, you'll always be able to. Now, alright, well, that's the end of the second part of it. Hopefully, this will help get someone started. Third part of the video, I'll actually be going out in the woods and showing you the different trees that have wood that would be suitable to make, and actually make the entire kit in the wild and build fire with it. So, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. See you next time.